Welcome everybody to my post-combine mock draft, my mock draft 2.0. If you don't know who I am David, half of the duo known as the Hot and Cold Podcast, Sports and More. This mock draft, we're doing it today, March 8th, right after the Russell Wilson trade. Fully up to date. We're going to do one round here. I do want to do a second round for this mock, so if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments. I'll do it later in the week. I wanted to get this out tonight, so I'm only doing the first round. This is a what I would do mock, not necessarily a predictive mock, and we're not going to be doing any trades. If you've already seen my first one, there's going to be a lot of similar picks. A lot of my opinions haven't necessarily changed yet, but there is going to be some differences I need to deviate. With that being said, if you haven't seen my first one, definitely go back and watch that. I'll definitely put a link in the description for that. But that being said, let's go ahead and jump into it. Starting out here at number 1, Jaguars taking Evan Neal. Best offensive tackle in the class. You got to get Trevor Lawrence that protection. You got to make sure he is set up to succeed. You take an offensive tackle here, you take a wide receiver in the second round, you build around him, and you avoid him, fitting that kind of Andrew Luck narrative that everyone seems to be pushing right now, because Trevor Lawrence is a generational talent. He's a guy you need to set up to succeed, and Evan Neal does exactly that. I know they just franchise tag Cam Robinson, so maybe they do deviate, maybe they go defense, maybe they go Aiden Hutchinson, Kayvon Thibodeau. They could also go with a different tackle like Ike Ekwonu, but I like Evan Neal. This is who I would take if I'm the Jaguars. Doug Peterson, the last time he was super successful, he had a great offensive line, and Evan Neal is really the start of that. But when it comes to Cam Robinson, you take him, push him to right tackle, let him battle it out with Walker Little. Whoever loses, you kick them inside to guard. That way you can let Andrew Norwell walk in free agency, who's getting old, and you're saving money. You can put that money elsewhere. I just think this is a great pick overall for the Jaguars. Looking at Evan Neal as a prospect, he's freaky athletic, extremely versatile. He does need to work on his hand movement a little bit, but that should just come naturally at the next level. So yeah, this is your first overall pick. Just doing whatever you can to set up Trevor Lawrence. So we move to number 2, Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions. Again, same as my last mock draft. I feel like this one, you can pretty much just pencil it in if the Jaguars take Evan Neal here. Best edge rusher in the class, extremely polished, extremely strong, great mechanics, super solid athlete, great leader. He doesn't have the best bend, but he does make up for that with strength. And this is a pick where you're really building from the inside out with your defense. And I think a lot more teams need to focus on that. You start with that defensive line and then you build back. And that is kind of the direction they went with their offense, taking Penei Sewell in the first round last year. It just seems like a very Dan Campbell pick. And if I'm the Lions, like I said, best defensive player on the board, really build up that defense. And Aiden Hutchinson has the potential to turn into a generational pass rusher. As we move on here to the Texans at 3, I'm just taking BPA, and that is Kyle Hamilton. Best player in this class, in my opinion. I think this dude is a genuine blue chip type of guy. Definitely could end up being one of the better safeties in the league very quickly. Someone described him, it was a YouTuber Bengal, if you don't know who he is. He does a lot of draft stuff. He described Kyle Hamilton as being like a missile, and Marcus Whitman, another guy like Bengal, who is a YouTuber, does a lot of Madden rebuilds and draft content. During his latest mock draft and on Twitter, he said Kyle Hamilton was like Spider-Man, and I think that's a surprisingly good comparison. He has crazy instincts. He's super fast. He's just everywhere. He's just everywhere all the time. It's like he's swinging around the field. I know a lot of people were kind of disappointed with his combine. Don't pay attention to that. If you watch the tape, this man is quick. He flies all over the field. His speed to the ball, sideline to sideline speed is absolutely crazy. His closing speed is insane. The sky really is the limit with this guy. This is, again, could be a generational type safety. You put him back there with Reed, and he's just going to change your defense. Really, he's going to change your defense, especially if Lovie Smith is going to run his usual brand of cover 2, with a lot of, maybe some Tampa 2 concepts in there and whatnot. You put him back there with Reed, that's going to give you a great 2 high safety duo. Guy that's going to force a lot of turnovers. As we move on here to number 4 with the Jets, I'm going to take Ike Ekwonu. Same thought process as Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars up there. You got to protect Zach Wilson. You put him opposite Mekhi Becton. The two of them can move around if you need them to. They're both extremely talented, physical maulers in the run game. I like the idea of them running the ball a little bit more next year. I really like, kid out of North Carolina, their running back. Let me look his name up real quick. But when it comes to Becton, you're putting him alongside Elijah Vera Tucker. Or I'm sorry, when it comes to Ekwonu, you're putting him next to Becton and Elijah Vera Tucker. Michael Carter. That's the Jets running backs game. I really like Michael Carter. So you put Ekwonu opposite of Becton with Elijah Vera Tucker there in the middle. You're really building up a really, really good young offensive line for both your quarterback and your running backs. The only issue here with Ekwonu is maybe his arms are a little bit too short, but he's uber athletic. And if the arm length is really a concern, if that's something you're really going to worry about, kick him into guard. Put him next to Mekhi Becton, and just completely negate half of the defense. Half of the defensive line, just completely take them out of games. I think Ike Ekwonu is a great pick here at 4. As we move on to number 5, the Giants. This is a team that is struggling. Obviously, there's a reason they're picking so high. But there are rumors that apparently they're going to bring in Mitchell Trubisky to compete for their quarterback spot with Daniel Jones. I've been preaching this for a couple weeks now. I think it's a great idea. I don't think Mitch is that good, but at the very least, you're either lighting a fire under Daniel Jones and hyping him up and pushing him to be the best he can be, or it all crashes and burns. You get a top pick and you can take a quarterback next year, and next year's quarterback class is supposed to be pretty good. So I don't see necessarily the downside in bringing in Trubisky. But if you're going to do that, you need to make sure they have time in the pocket. And to do that, we're going to bring in Charles Cross out of Mississippi State. Best offensive lineman on the board currently. He's a big-time need. Obviously, the Giants could trade down here or at pick 7. Like I said, I'm not doing any trades here. But he is a super polished pass protector. He does need to develop more of a run-blocking skill set. But I attribute a lot of that to the fact that they didn't really run the ball at Mississippi State. So once you kind of have him run blocking more in the NFL, I think he'll pick that up. I don't think he'll struggle with that too much. He's extremely talented. And you put him opposite of Andrew Thomas, and that is a foundation for a really, really good offensive line. So I have Charles Cross here at number 5. As you move on to number 6, the Panthers. Now, like I said, this is a what I would do mock draft, but I'm also kind of putting myself in the position of these GMs, right? So if I'm the Panthers GM, I'm looking at this like, okay, this team is a mess. I could probably lose my job if we don't do too well this year. The coach could probably lose his job if we don't do too well this year. So Matt Rhule is going to be coming to me like, listen, we need a quarterback. We need someone that can lead this team. And there's not a lot of great options in free agency. Not a lot of great options via trade. I know there's Kirk Cousins rumors, and I could get into Kirk Cousins, but I'm not going to. I'm not a big fan of his. So with that, I'm going to have them take a quarterback here at 6, and that quarterback is going to be Kenny Pickett. There are some sort of connections with Matt Rhule. Can't quite remember what they are, but I know they're connected somehow. And I know there's concern with his hand size, but I don't buy into that too much. I think he'll be fine. He's an NFL-ready quarterback, at least the most out of this draft class. I think he can be one of the better quarterbacks out of this class. I do have some faith in Kenny Pickett. So we're going to take him here at number 6. As we go to number 7, we have the Giants again. And we took offensive tackle last time. We're going to go on the other side of the ball, take an edge rusher here with Kayvon Thibodeau. I love this fit. I absolutely adore this fit for the Giants. He reminds me a lot of Odafe Oweh. Very similar prospects in the sense that they're very boomer bust athletic edge rushers. And Odafe Oweh went to the Ravens last year. He was the Ravens defensive coordinator. Giants' current defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale, who was able to bring the best out of Oweh and made him into an absolute stud. And I think he can do the same exact thing with Kayvon Thibodeau this year. I know there's some concerns that maybe his heart's not in it. Maybe he doesn't have a love for the game like he once did, whatever. I don't buy into any of that. I think people are reading way too much into that, and people are going crazy. I saw on Twitter the other day some guy made a chart comparing analytics and data and numbers surrounding his personality versus Chase Young's personality, and that was just ridiculous. You look at that, people just need to get a grip. Like, if you're doing that, if you're taking numbers and analytics to judge someone's personality, you need to go outside and touch some grass. That's just ridiculous. I think Kayvon Thibodeau has the potential to be one of, if not the best player in this draft class. His ceiling is extremely high. The only reason I have him going lower than a guy like Aiden Hutchinson is because Aiden Hutchinson's a little more polished and a little more physical. But regardless, I think Thibodeau is a great player here. As we move on to number 8 with the Falcons. Originally, I had them taking a corner here, but somebody decided to go and get themselves suspended for a year, and that would be Garrett Wilson. That would be Calvin Ridley, and we're going to take Garrett Wilson to replace him. I know there was a chance that Calvin Ridley might not play this year anyways, or play this year for the Falcons anyways, but in the event of that happening, they would probably get a second-round pick out of him, and if that happens, then you can just take a receiver in the second. So originally I had them taking Sauce Gardner, but the fact that he's just not going to be there at all, that receiver core is decimated. There's absolutely nothing there. So I have them taking the best receiver on the board being Garrett Wilson. He reminds me a lot of Justin Jefferson. He's a big, smooth wide receiver with great ball skills. And, this is your franchise number 1 wide receiver. Potentially, if Ridley gets back from this suspension and has a change of heart, you put the two of them together, that's an insane duo. If not, you trade Calvin Ridley, and you feel a lot less bad about it now that you have Garrett Wilson as your wide receiver 1. Set up Matt Ryan for this year to have a weapon, and then whoever ends up being your future quarterback, you give him a franchise wide receiver right off the bat. I think it's a great fit. As we get to the Seahawks here, and this team's very interesting because they need everything. Just about. They need just about everything. And I'm saying that because I'm not too confident in Drew Lock. I don't think Drew Lock is their franchise quarterback. They do have draft assets going forward, so maybe they trade for one, or maybe maybe their thought process is suck this year and go get a quarterback next year, whatever. I'm going to go with that thought process, I suppose, because I'm just going to give them the best player available on the board, and that's going to be Sauce Gardner here. You need an elite cornerback in today's NFL, and Pete Carroll likes himself a physical man coverage corner like a Richard Sherman, and Sauce Gardner really fits that description. Best player available. He had an 85% press man rate last year, and he never allowed more than 13 receiving yards in a game. He's got a big frame. He's going to fit really well in a Pete Carroll-type defense. His combine wasn't great, but again, he's the type of guy that if you watch the tape, you know what you're getting. You know who he is. That combine shouldn't scare you off. And I think he is the supposed best pick here for the Seahawks. I really don't know what they're going to do. Like I said, they could go 15 different directions, but if I'm in the GM chair, I'm taking Sauce Gardner. As we get here to number 10, I'm going to have the Jets taking a wide receiver to set up Zach Wilson, and that's going to be Drake London. He's a prototypical X receiver, number 1 type guy. He's a deep threat, also really great in that intermediate range. You're getting Zach Wilson, a reliable go-to, setting him up to succeed as much as possible. I think that one's pretty self-explanatory. As we're going to jump here to 11, and we're going to have another quarterback go off the board, and that is going to be Malik Willis. Now, I want to say, I don't think any of the quarterbacks in this class are necessarily worth risking a first-round pick on. That being said, every year it happens. Every year teams are going to risk and take a quarterback early. And I know this is what I would do. So what I am doing is going with that trend. These are teams that are desperate for a quarterback. I know Washington said they were looking at like 42 different guys. So why not just take potentially the best quarterback out of this class? This team has some other needs, but quarterback is by far their biggest. And you take Malik Willis here at 11. It's a lot better than getting a guy like Mitchell Trubisky or a Jimmy Garoppolo. Actually, I guess Garoppolo is a little bit better, but this is cheaper, cheaper with higher upside. I like Malik Willis. I think he's a solid prospect. He's fast. He's got a strong arm. There's some accuracy concerns, but you can coach that up. You can work with that. I like Ron Rivera a lot as a coach. I think he can work well with him. So yeah, like I said, I don't love the quarterbacks in this class. I don't love taking a bunch in the first round, but some teams just need to take a quarterback, and I think Washington's one of them, assuming they don't get it figured out in free agency. As we move on to number 12, and this hurts my soul to do, as a Bears fan and a solidified Viking hater, I'm giving them Derek Stingley Jr. So you can see Draft Network had him as their 6th ranked prospect overall. He's good. He's real good. He has some injury concerns, but if you go back and look at that 2019 tape, he was a freak, an absolute freak. That's the only reason why I have him sliding a little bit, especially with Sauce Gardner going ahead of him, is that injury, but he's an absolute freak. He's a lockdown corner. The Vikings really, really need themselves a corner. He's kind of a boomer bust prospect, but I don't think he's going to bust. I think he's going to be really, really good. Like I said, I hate giving him to the Vikings, but I can't be biased here, and this pick just makes a lot of sense for them. As we move on to 13 with the Browns, and this is a team that doesn't have a wide receiver one. Apparently Jarvis Landry's not coming back. It doesn't look like they want to bring him back. You need to get Baker, a guy that's gonna bail him out a little bit, and I think that guy's gonna be Treylon Burks out of Arkansas. I do like Jameson Williams a lot. He's the best receiver on the board in my opinion here, but that injury concern is a little too much for me here at 13. I think Treylon Burks is nearly as good. He wasn't the best at the combine, but he's extremely explosive on film. Again, you can look at the combine; it's great, but you got to watch these guys on film to really appreciate their athletic ability, because you can easily slip up at the combine and screw up, and you're not going to screw up consistently on film if you're that good of an athlete. He's a lot like A.J. Brown or Deebo Samuel, who's really, really big and physical. If you get him the ball in that short to intermediate range, he's going to really work in the open field. That's why I said you need to get a guy that's going to bail Baker out, let him throw a check down, let Treylon Burks create. He's a great fit in their offense, and I just think he's a great pick overall here. So you get to number 14, another AFC North team with the Ravens. I have them taking an edge rusher in David Ajabo. And, he's the 3rd edge rusher on the board here. They'll let me pick him, geez. And the reason I have him going here at 14 is he just makes too much sense if he's sitting here. He might not be the best, but the connections are so important. He's a big-time need, first of all. You need an edge opposite of Odafe Owe, and I think he's a really good complement to Owe. And they're apparently good buddies in high school. They were good buddies. There's this Harbaugh connection where the two Harbaughs are obviously going to be talking, and I'm sure Jim's got some nice things to say about Ajabo, and Michigan's former defensive coordinators now in Baltimore. It's just such a good fit that it just makes too much sense. Obviously, I do think a guy like Trayvon Walker or George Karlaftis is better, but the fit here makes it even better, or makes it even better for Baltimore. And speaking of Karlaftis, that's where we're going to go here at number 15 with the Philadelphia Eagles. They are going to need edge help. Obviously, Barnett didn't pan out the way they thought he would, and Brandon Graham isn't getting any younger. So you get a guy who, like Karlaftis, who is a lot like Brandon Graham. He's going to be a great piece on your defense. Now, he might not get a bunch of reps right away, but over time, he's going to become that guy in this defense. The hype for him is slowly dying down, with a lot of guys kind of rising boards, or, looking more and more impressive. A lot of people are buying into the hype, but the tape doesn't lie with Karlaftis. It really doesn't. He's a great edge prospect. He's real powerful, and, if he needs to, he can step inside. Maybe that's where they're playing him year one. But I think Karlaftis is a great pick here for Philly. As we move to number 16, which is Philly again, we're going to go linebacker here, and we're going to take Nakobe Dean. Best linebacker on the board, Butkus Award winner. He's a great athlete. He's extremely explosive, and he has quick feet. He's a high-volume tackler. However, he does lack size, and his instincts are less than ideal, but his timing is really good. And this is a team that needs that presence in the middle. They need that number one guy who can kind of lead their defense, and I think Nakobe Dean is that. Like I said, him being a little bit undersized reminds me a little bit of Roquan Smith, ironically both coming from Georgia. And, as a Bears fan, big fan of Roquan Smith, obviously. I think he's incredible. So we're going to take Nakobe Dean here at number 16. As we get to number 17 with the Chargers, we're going to take the Incredible Hulk himself as we go down here to interior defensive line. That's going to be Jordan Davis, once again, out of Georgia. Georgia's going to be crazy, by the way. Their defense was stupid last year. The amount of guys that are going to go in the first round, I think, is going to be insane. But Jordan Davis here, like I said, he is the Incredible Hulk. You put him and Kyle Hamilton together, you can kind of start to build a team to tackle an Avengers-level threat just out of this year's draft prospects. But the Chargers really need help in the interior defensive line. It is terrible. Jerry Tillery is terrible. He's one of the worst defensive linemen in football. So you get a guy to replace him. Davis is a phenomenal run defender. He's not a great pass rusher, but his enforcement against the run, the way he can enforce, is just too good to pass up. Dude ran a 4.8 at 6'6", 340 pounds. He is an athletic freak. As we get on to number 18 here with the Saints, we're going to get a wide receiver here. I do think Jameis Winston comes back for the Saints. I really like Jameis Winston recently. I think he's been kind of an underrated quarterback. Maybe I overrate him a little bit. If you know, you know. But we're going to go here and take Jameson Williams, get him a weapon. Like I said, I really like Jameson Williams. Injury is a concern, but the upside with this guy is totally worth the risk. If he, is what he's supposed to be, perfect deep threat complement to Michael Thomas. I can't remember the name of the coach, but there was a coach that said you need to build your receiver core like a basketball team where each guy has a different skill set and can do different things. And that's exactly the type of guy Jameson Williams is, opposite of Michael Thomas, where Michael Thomas is more of your intermediate to short range kind of possession guy, and Jameson Williams is your over-the-top deep threat. He'll be absolutely explosive, and especially considering the NFC South is going to be very weak next year, I think to really make a playoff push if Winston comes back and Jameson Williams can be that guy for them. As we move on to number 19, and this pick absolutely breaks my heart, because this is my favorite player in this entire class. And I was really hoping that he would be available at 39 for my Bears, and it seemed like he was going to be for the longest time. And then the combine happened, and he was like, hey, you want to see me just take my draft stock and jump 30 spots where I'm projected to go? And if you don't know who I'm talking about by now, we're talking Christian Watson, who, by the way, found out last night his nickname is the Tampa Tornado, which is awesome. But regardless, like I said, absolutely killed the combine. Dude is super fast. He has that size and that big frame that these wide receivers in Philly lack. He does struggle a little bit with concentration drops, but I preach all the time. It is the easiest fix for a wide receiver to fix concentration drop issues. If that's your number one issue as a receiver coming out of college, then you are going to have a fun time in the NFL. He's a great run blocker. He reminds me a lot of DK Metcalf in the sense of his athletic ability. I don't quite know how to interpret it. Again, I'm kind of new to the whole draft process and looking deep into prospects. But I saw this chart on Twitter, and it was talking about his athletic score, and he was very similar to Calvin Johnson, which I thought was worth mentioning. This is a guy that's 6'4", like 208 pounds. He's just a freak. He's just an absolute freak. I was watching his tape last night. I think they were playing Northern Iowa in the game I was watching. They had him lining up in the backfield. He was returning kicks. You don't see 6'4" wide receivers returning kicks and lining up in the backfield. That's just how athletic this guy is. And Philly's getting a phenomenal receiver here at 19. Like I said, I was really hoping he'd fall to Chicago, but it's just not going to happen. As we get here to number 20 with Pittsburgh, and obviously you want a quarterback here, but we look at the quarterbacks. I'm not taking Ritter this high. I'm not taking Corral this high. I'm not taking Howell this high. I don't think there's a quarterback here you can really take. I don't think they're going to go into the draft with Mason Rudolph or Dwayne Haskins as QB1. I think they're going to get one in free agency. Trubisky's in play. Mariota's in play. Maybe they trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe Carson Wentz gets cut and they go after him. They have some options where they don't have to go out and draft a quarterback. I suppose you could take Matt Corral here, but we're not going to do that. We're going to build up something else, and that's this interior line, and we're going to take Zion Johnson. And Zion Johnson, I think, is a nearly flawless guard prospect. He is a little bit undersized, but he's super athletic. He's super strong, great technique. He's a dominant pass blocker as well as a damn good run blocker. He does a great job of mirroring and attacking defensive linemen, and he uses his slight undersize to his advantage. He really takes advantage of leverage, and he fits a big-time need on the Steelers' offensive line as a guy who can play guard or center. Again, you could go quarterback here, but assuming they don't trade up, assuming they sit here at 20 and they have a quarterback in place from free agency, I think Zion Johnson's a phenomenal pick. As we get here to 21 with the Patriots, now this is a team that I thought was going to trade for Calvin Ridley. That's not going to happen now. Obviously, wide receiver is still a big need, but Amari Cooper, they've been linked to him if he ends up getting cut. And this is a deep class. If you fall into the second round and there's a guy you like in the mid-second, you can trade up a little bit. You can wait for one to fall to you, whatever. But the big thing that's happening with the Patriots right now is J.C. Jackson is going to leave. And that's because he wants big money, and old Billy Belichick isn't going to give him that. First of all, if you're questioning Bill Belichick for that, go back and look at some of the moves Bill Belichick's made throughout his tenure with the Patriots. He does this kind of stuff all the time. He has a guy ball out, expect big money, and then he doesn't give it to him. And I'm not saying this is going to happen to J.C. Jackson, but those guys tend to fall off once they leave New England. J.C. Jackson, I think, would be the type of guy to not fall off if he goes somewhere else. But regardless, we're going to look at a corner here because of that. And you have some options here. You have Trent McDuffie, you have Andrew Booth, you have Kyer Alam, you have Kyler Gordon, you have Tariq Woolen, who just absolutely balled at the combine. But I'm going to be taking Trent McDuffie here, best corner on the board. He's a smart, athletic cornerback. Belichick can really turn him into one of those elite top corners. I think if you're letting J.C. Jackson walk, then this is a pretty good consolation prize, all things considered. As we get to 22, the Raiders, they have a lot of needs. This is a team that now is in the most stacked division in football. And because of that, ironically, Derek Carr, who I really like, I think is a borderline top 10 quarterback, is now the worst quarterback in his division, which is crazy to think about. And the Raiders are probably a little bit at the bottom of this division right now, probably will finish last in this division. And there's a lot of ways you could go. But if I'm them, I want to replace Henry Ruggs, and the best way to do that is Chris Olave. Sorry, I get so much crap for how I pronounce his name. It's Olave. I need to remember that. But he's potentially one of the best, or potentially the best receiver in this class. Definitely one of the best receivers. Killed the combine, super fast. He's a really good route runner. He's the perfect replacement for Henry Ruggs. You get that deep threat that Derek Carr is going to need to keep up with guys like Mahomes and Wilson and Herbert. So I think this is a great pick for them. As we move on to the Cardinals, there's a lot of rumors that Chandler Jones is looking to leave, or a lot of rumors that the Cardinals aren't going to bring him back. And even if they do bring him back, you need somebody opposite of him. So we're going to take the 8th ranked prospect on this board, Trayvon Walker. He's going to slide all the way to 23. He's a big-time physical edge rusher that can play inside if needed. Once again, he's very versatile, super physical. He killed the combine, and he needs to develop as a one-on-one pass rusher a bit more, but you'll get that when you give him reps. He's a day one starter. Love Trayvon Walker out of Georgia, and I think he's a great pick here for the Cardinals. As we go to 24, the Cowboys are in a weird spot. They need not quite as much. You could definitely go offensive line here, but there's rumors that DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be gone. They asked him to restructure, and he said no. Uh, I need to double check that because I know they restructured Dak today. But there's a lot of issues with their cap right now. They're thinking about cutting Amari Cooper. Okay, Zach Martin was the other one. I just want to make sure it wasn't DeMarcus Lawrence, and I was sounding like a dumbass. But there is a chance that DeMarcus Lawrence gets cut, and if that happens, I think Jermaine Johnson's great. Very, very similar to DeMarcus Lawrence, just built a little bit differently. Very strong, very nasty type of edge rusher. I think if, like I said, you're getting rid of DeMarcus Lawrence, this is a great replacement. He's younger, has a higher upside, that kind of thing. As we move on to 25 with the Bills, and I do see that interior defensive line is their number one need. You could also go edge here. I like Arnold Ebiketie here, but we're going to go corner. Or I'm sorry, not corner. Interior defensive line. Good Lord, I went corner in my last mock for them. We're just going to take the best defensive lineman on the board, and that's Devontae Wyatt. Again, another Georgia guy. How many Georgia guys is this in the first round? Okay, we'll look at the end. Shoot. My mouse froze up. Anyways, we'll talk while it tries to unfreeze itself. The Bills need themselves a plug-and-play starter. You put him alongside Ed Oliver. You're getting a great pass rusher that can also play the run very well. He's a win-now type of pick that makes an immediate impact. It does seem like my mouse is completely frozen. I can't do anything. This is why we don't use Chromebooks. This is why we don't use Chromebooks. I don't know what to do here. Hold on, let's try this. I don't know if that did anything. It did do something. Did it stop my recording? It did not. We're good. Okay. I'm sorry about that. If you don't know, I record this on a Chromebook because it's the only laptop I have available, and it sucks. It's the worst. And every once in a while, my mouse will freeze up and it won't do anything. But yeah, Devontae Wyatt to the Bills here. Build up that defensive line. There's not a lot of great pieces down there. You put him alongside Ed Oliver. Very much a win-now type of pick for the Bills. So we get to 26 with the Titans. And we look here. Matt Corral sitting here. Desmond Ridder sitting here. Do we move on from Ryan Tannehill? I don't think we do yet. I think he's a guy that he's all right. You're not going to – you can upgrade from him, but he's all right. You can run it back with him. And that leaves us with two positions here. We could go linebacker. Devin Lloyd is still sitting here. Christian Harris is here. Chad Mumma, if you really want to get deep. I don't think either of these guys would go in the first round. But I'm going to go corner. And we're going to go Kaiir Elam, I believe, right? That's who we have written down. It is. I like Kaiir Elam a lot. He ran a 4.39. He's a very quick corner. Definitely a franchise corner one type guy. He struggled with injuries a little bit, but I think he should be good with that. He has great hips, patient feet. He's great at mirroring routes. You get yourself a real lockdown corner one here in Tennessee, and that's going to help your defense a lot, especially playing in the AFC where once you hit the playoffs, you're going up against guys like Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase. You need that type of guy, and Kaiir Elam can be that. And the Bucs here at 27. Obviously a lot of needs here. They just franchise tagged Chris Godwin. They did lose. Was it Ryan Jensen that retired or Ali Marpet? It was Ali Marpet. It was definitely Ali Marpet that retired. Ryan Jensen's slated to be a free agent, though. However, there was another retirement this year for the Buccaneers. Some guy named Tom retired for them, leaving a gaping hole at quarterback. So we're going to take Sam Howell. This is arguably the best quarterback in this class. I think a lot of people look at Malik Willis, including myself, in all fairness, as the quarterback with the most upside in this class. And I get it. Like I said, I also think the same thing, but Sam Howell isn't too far behind. You look at him, he has a strong arm, he's fast, just like Willis. He has fewer issues with accuracy, fewer issues with going through his progressions and reading defenses. Willis is a guy that isn't great at reading a coverage, isn't great at reading safeties. Sam Howell can. He was just stuck with a lot of really bad weapons last year at Carolina. But this team is built to win. And I don't think Andy Reid is going to try to run it back with some middle of the pack quarterback. I don't think they're going to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. You definitely can't run it back with Kyle Trask. He's not an NFL quarterback. So you put Sam Howell in here. He's going to take a big step. He's got a great supporting cast. And especially with how weak the NFC South is, he could take this team to the playoffs, realistically. As we get here to the Green Bay Packers, Rodgers is back. They'll end up trading Jordan Love, most likely. So I don't think you take a receiver here. There's some good receivers on the board, but we're not going to take one here. I don't think they will. I don't think you should. You can trade up in the second round. You can trade Jordan Love maybe for an early second round pick, get yourself a receiver. I'm going to take a defensive player. We're going to take an interior defensive lineman, and that is Travis Jones out of UConn. I like the fit a lot. Obviously DeMarvin Leal and Perry and Winfrey are still sitting here. They're a little bit better, but I like the fit a lot. He's a great run stuffer. Put him alongside Kenny Clark. He's going to be a lot better than Dean Lowry, who probably gets cut as a cap casualty. After this, there is a big talent drop-off. And, like I said, maybe these two are a little bit better, but I like Travis Jones more. And, you got to do what you can for that defense, depending on what Rodgers' deal looks like. I know Pat McAfee said he thinks it's going to be a team-friendly deal. That's pretty much all we've heard, because the original rumor was $50 million a year, and that Rodgers himself confirmed that wasn't true. So depending on what type of money they're working with, you got to find solid starters where you can. And I think Travis Jones is just that at 28. So you go to 29 here for the Dolphins. Pretty self-explanatory. We're going to take ourselves the best tackle on the board, and that is Trevor Penning. Got to protect Tua. Got to set your team up to succeed in the run game as well, especially with your new head coach, who absolutely loves to run the ball. But Trevor Penning, I like him a lot. Plug-and-play starter, day one, that type of thing. Chiefs here at 30. We're going to take a safety. We know Tyrann Mathieu is testing free agency at the very least. Maybe don't bring him back. Get a guy like Daxton Hill, who's very similar. He could go a lot earlier. I like Daxton Hill a lot. I've seen some people mocking him inside like the top 15, and I don't hate that. But I have him falling here to 30 with the Chiefs. Versatile defensive weapon, basically like the defensive back version of Micah Parsons in a weird way. He can play slot corner if you need him to. He can play safety. It reminds me a lot of Minkah Fitzpatrick. He's got great speed, great man coverage ability. I think this is the perfect guy to replace Tyrann Mathieu if he decides to leave. And the Bengals here at 31. Bengals fans, if this happens in real life, oh my God, you're going to feel like you hit the lottery. There is an interior offensive lineman that has slipped all the way to 31, and that is Tyler Linderbaum. He's projected to be the best center in this class, maybe the best interior lineman in this class. I like Zion Johnson a little bit more, but he's an aggressive blocker, a little bit undersized, but he's very aggressive. He can play center or guard, and that interior of that line, you really need to protect Burrow, and Linderbaum is exactly the guy to do that. And here at 32, the Lions, you look at their top needs. Last pick in the first round. Because it's the last pick in the first round, we're going to take a quarterback, and that's going to be Desmond Runner. I'll click on it in a second because it'll change the thingy. But Ritter has super high upside. I love Desmond Ritter. He absolutely killed it at the Combine. And the reason I'm saying you take him here in the first round, even though you could technically take him in the second round, because if you take him in the first round, you get that fifth-year option, and that's very important, especially if you're going to sit him for a year. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. So like I said, Desmond Ritter here at 32. As the draft is finalized, this is my second mock draft. We'll go ahead and scroll back through so you guys can see a little recap here. But yeah, I'm proud of this one. I like this mock draft a lot. I threw it together today and last night. Had to make a lot of changes today with the trade of Russell Wilson. But that's going to do it for me here. That's my second mock draft after the Combine, after the Russell Wilson trade. Like I said, I do want to do a second round for this, so if you guys are interested, please let me know. I'll come back through, fill in all the first round picks, and then start my recording at the start of the second round. Do that later in the week. I just wanted to get this out today. So with that being said, make sure you guys like the video if you enjoyed it. Leave in the comments below what you think I could have done different, what you think I should have done different. Yell at me if I'm an idiot. I'm still new to the whole evaluating draft prospects thing, so I might not be perfect. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I'm going to be 100% transparent. I'm typically a guy that doesn't look beyond what my team needs or who my team's projected to take. But this year, I'm really diving in. I've had a lot of fun with this class. There's a lot of really fun players with high upside that I really like. And there's a lot of those guys that I would get more into in the second round. Like I said, if you're interested, let me know. I would love to do that. I get to talk about the Bears if that's the case. But yeah, like I said, like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. It says over 60% of people who watch these videos are not subscribed, and that's a lot of people. 60%, that's over half. That means only 40% of the people that watch the videos are subscribed, and I gotta tell you, that's quite goofy. That is quite silly and goofy. So let's fix that. And if you're finding me on YouTube, make sure to check me out on my other socials. They will be in the description. I post a lot on Twitter, post a lot on TikTok. And make sure to follow my boy Andrew as well, the other host of the Hot and Cold podcast. And make sure to check out the new episodes. Come out weekly on the weekends, sometimes on Monday, because scheduling is weird. But that being said, I've been David of the Hot and Cold podcast. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys hopefully later this week.